Good Monday morning, everybody, and welcome to Arnie's Fantasy World of Sports. It's good to see all of you guys in our chat room this morning. It's good to see or know that you're listening on other podcast capabilities throughout this great country of ours, and I hope everyone is doing well. I know that I watch the news as you are about the virus, and I hope that you guys are precautionary, being careful, that you are being wise, and that this will pass too, right? I mean, we've just got to get through this together. And I was talking to Lenny. We were communicating last week, and he said, well, what do you want to do about podcasts? And he and I both agreed, there's nothing better to do than talk about some baseball. Even though games are not playing, there's still things to talk about. So let's do it, okay? Let's do it this morning. I want to just let you know before we get into any news of the day, so to speak. Yesterday was a very baseball full day for me. I had 2 drafts. One, I'm going to talk about these individually. The first one was yesterday afternoon. It's a league that Phil Chaplin is the commissioner, and it's a pre-existing league. I walked into a team that I guess the owner had left the league, and it's a dynasty league. So yesterday I think I walked in with 15 picks already. I had to complete the rest of my team, which I think was 19 more rounds. Yeah, this thing went deep. And I just want to go over my team with you. And I've got a few reserves, rookie reserves that were inherited, which I'm fine with that. In fact, I'm fine with my old team. I think it's going to be interesting. But I started off my catcher that I have on my team is Mitch Garver. And I have a backup to Mitch Garver. I went ahead and picked a backup catcher because, you're going to have days where, of course, players play and others don't. So I picked Cleveland Indian Roberto Perez. And there was some methodology here going on. I figure, first of all, Perez is going to be the primary catcher in Cleveland. Last year he hit 24 home runs and drove in 63. So when you combine Perez with Garver's numbers, last year for the Twins, he hit 31 home runs, had a 273 average, 67 RBIs. I like the catcher combination that I've got going on here. Hopefully they both don't have off days on the same day, but it looks like I've got a good chance to keep a catcher in line. It's a one-catcher league, by the way, but I did go ahead and draft a backup catcher. Now at first base, I have Yuli Gurriel. And I like Gurriel for Houston. I like the Houston players. I just think that from a Houston Astro perspective, you talk about Gurriel now. Remember, last year in 144 games played, he hit 31 homers, 40 doubles, walked 37 times, he hit 298. I think from a Houston Astro perspective, the players are probably going to come out with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Now, we know they're going to be subject to some criticism. I believe they will be. But at the same time, these are some good players. So, I like Yuli Gurriel. I know he's going to be, I think they say 36 years old. But at any rate, I've got him. And I've got some other first basemen or players who can play first base. How about that? I've got Daniel Murphy. Now, you may say, well, he had a bad year last year. And well, he did. He was injured some, but certainly in Colorado, with the opportunity he's going to have to play first base this year, I think he'll have that opportunity. I think he could certainly produce. I thought he was worth a flyer at the position that I drafted him. I've also got, for Tampa Bay, I've got first baseman, third baseman, Yandy Diaz. And I think Yandy Diaz is really due a breakout. Last year, other than when he was injured, he stung the ball, hit it with authority. And so these are guys, and of course Diaz can also play third. So I've got three people who could slot in at first base. And Gurriel, remember, he's first base, third base eligible in a lot of leagues. So I moved to second base, where I've got Atlanta Brave. I think he's just a budding star, Ozzie Albies. Albies last year with 24 homers, with 15 stolen bases. He hit .295, and with his 160 games played, he's going to be in the lineup every day for Atlanta, barring some injury. He's had no history of injury. So I think as far as second basemen go, Ozzie Albies is certainly prime for a huge year. Now, I also have, and he's an interesting player, and his average draft position is way down, like 250 range. And I think he could really be the sleeper for fantasy drafts in 2020. Well, who is he? He's second base, third base eligible, Starlin Castro. Now of the Washington Nationals. Last year for the Marlins, he had 636 at-bats. He had 22 homers in that huge ballpark. He had .270, drove in 86. Last week, just prior to teams and games being canceled and teams breaking, manager Davey Martinez indicated last Wednesday that Castro is the most likely candidate to open the season as the Nationals' number 3 hitter. Now, that was reported by Jesse Doherty of the Washington Post. Okay, so if Starlin Castro is hitting third, let's look at those guys around him. Okay, so you're going to have Trey Turner leading off for Washington, Adam Eaton, another on-base percentage guy, batting second, Castro hitting third, and Juan Soto hitting fourth. I like Castro, and frankly, I don't know that the people who rank players and who put in average draft positions are aware that Castro is hitting third for the Nationals. Well, now you are. You're aware of it now. And if you haven't had drafts, I think that Starlin Castro could be the best value play in all of fantasy baseball this year. When you look at the team concept, I like players who play on winning teams. Why? Because winning teams score more runs, hence they win more games. And teams who score more runs typically have better statistics, right? And he's hitting in 3-hole, in behind Trey Turner, in front of Juan Soto. Are you kidding me? Okay, let's move on. And I've also got Gavin Lux, who can play second base, by the way. And I don't count on Gavin Lux a lot right here, but I do know that Gavin Lux, if he plays regularly, has all the ability in the world and could be the NL ROY this year. We'll see about how much he actually plays, but I'm betting on him being the starting second baseman for Los Angeles. Just another good player at the Keystone middle infield position. And finally, to back even those up, I have Freddie Galvis for Cincinnati. Remember, last year Freddie Galvis, in a not-so-friendly hitter's park, hit 23 home runs. This year, he moves to Cincinnati, Great American Ballpark, where I think that is like the greatest hitting ballpark in Major League Baseball short of Coors Field. He should hit at least 23, if not more. So I think Freddie Galvis, very underrated, but I'm looking for great things for him. That rounds out my second base. So now I go to shortstop, where I've got, of course, Freddie Galvis is a backup, but I've got Manny Machado. Now, Manny Machado and Castro and Galvis, all these guys interchangeable at the middle infield, shortstop, second base position. But Machado had a bad year last year. It was his first year in San Diego. He still hit 32 home runs. Now, he only hit 256 on average. He drove in, 85 runs. I think Manny Machado has a much better year this year. Now, he was not hitting well in spring, but again, it's spring. I think he had like 2 for 23 or something before spring training games were shut down. But Manny Machado, great talent. He's my shortstop. And again, I've got Castro. I've got Freddie Galvis, who can also play that position. So, 3 potential players for that 1 or 2 spots. I think my middle infield, shortstop, second base is covered. My third baseman, I've got Jose Ramirez. Now, he's an inherited player. Last year, in limited time, still hit 23 home runs. He's going to be playing third base every day for Cleveland. He's a streaky player, no doubt about it. And knowing that he gets in streaks or funks that can last up to several days at a time, but knowing he also can carry you for a week like none other, I thought he was worth putting in the lineup. Now, I've got backups at third base, and I've got one of those being Miguel Sano. Now, Sano this year is going to be first base, third base eligible at some point because he's going to be their first baseman. And last year, even though he did not play the full season, he played 105 games. Check this out. 105 games. But he had 34 home runs in 2/3 of a season. So, extrapolating that out, Miguel Sano last year was on a 50 home run pace. And when he hits the ball, of course, there's a lot of strikeouts, but when he hits the ball, he doesn't just hit it. He punishes the ball. So I've got him at third base, first base. Several people on my team can play third base. Some I haven't talked about yet. Yandy Diaz, I have spoken about. I've got Johan Camargo on my bench, who right now will probably be the starting third baseman for Atlanta, but he's also shortstop, outfield, and third base eligible in the league I am with Chaplin. I've got J.D. Davis, who's in my utility slot. I'll talk about it right now. Last year, he hit 22 homers. This year, looks like he's going to be in the Mets' regular lineup, but he's outfield, third base eligible, and he can back me up at third. I've got Hunter Dozier, who can also play third base and outfield. And I think it's just good to pause for a moment, guys. Don't you just love these players who are multi-positionable eligible? Because this league that I'm talking about now is a daily plug-and-play kind of league. Put your lineups in every day. And when you have players that you can draft who can play in different spots, oh, what a relief it is, right? It's like Alka-Seltzer for fantasy baseball. So, Hunter Dozier last year for Kansas City, 26 homers, 84 RBIs. He hit 279, capable of playing outfield and capable of playing on the corner or third base. So, that's my infield. Love the infield. Outfield. Well, I start with who everybody's probably starting with. I wish they could. I've got Mike Trout. Do I need to talk about Trout and his 40-plus home runs? Probably not. So Trout's one of my outfielders. Now, it's a little dicey, a little chancy here, but I went out yesterday and drafted Tampa Bay outfield DH Jose Martinez. And